Just was fine and I did, and I hope I have applied something. Now we go to the permanent units, the conditioning. Now we are shown at the end of this module, you find that all you have understood the role of charge regulators in the system, understand the operation of charge controllers, choose appropriate charge controllers, understand the operation of inverter, choose appropriate inverters, and so forth. So actually with this one here, we are made a lesson on the balance of the system, whereby we talk about the balance of the system, even consider the cabling, even the switches, and battery. But since the battery is also one of the most important items in the PV, it is not being considered separate, right? So in that balancing, this permanent net and commissioning, we are going to consider so much on the controllers, inverter. That's where it may be. Now, under this, you have the balance of system. This refers the components and equipment that move this energy produced by the solar panels through the conversion system, which in turn produces the electricity. It mainly refers to all components of a PV system other than the modules. Yeah, because definitely the module actually is the one which is delivering the energy, so that you can get that electrical source. So when you are considering that balancing, we just consider that because the modules definitely has to be there. In addition to inverters, we also consider cables, switches, enclosures, and so forth. Now, we could also say that balance of the system into the majority of the pieces, which make up roughly 10%, 50% of the solar purchasing and installation costs, and account for the majority of maintenance requirements. Now, one of the components of the PV, now we find that the power charge regulator is also known as charge controller, which in other words is also the voltage regulator. It's actually a voltage regulator that, now for example, like we saw when we were considering the semiconductor device, like we had the ordinary diode and the Zener diode. Now, the ordinary diode, it does the conversion of AC to DC, though without the filters, we expect to get some ripples, which are those are what unwanted AC signals. But when we involve the Zener diode, the voltage is fixed. Now, the same applies to the charge controller. Now, for example, when you get a module, a solar module, it's let's say rated at 18 volts, but the operating voltage system is 12 volts. And what determines the operating system volt is what? The battery. Now, what the regulator does, it will fix that voltage to 12. That's why, if there is no controller, the battery of 12 volts will be giving it a voltage of 18. That means it is over what? Overgiven, it is over being overrated, and by so doing, it will be affected very fast. So with the regulator, it will fix it to 12 or a certain percentage, but it will go beyond the limit. So the regulator sits between the arrays of panels, the batteries, and equipment or rods. What is the battery? Although always close to 2 volts per cell, varies according to its state of charge. By monitoring the voltage of the battery, the regulator prevents overcharging or over-discharging. Now, the primary functions of the charge controller. Now, provide center points for connecting the rod the controller, I wish you could give me just is it under 1 minute? Just need to be in the lab. So that you get to know what I'm talking about. That's right. Now, that side controller you're seeing, of course, that is analog, but we have the analog and digital, which has the display. So, that controller allows the end user to manage the system and locate potential system problems. Now, like when somebody looks at it allows the end user to manage the system and locate potential system problems. It means that if there is any disconnect, you can just tell from the what? From the controller by its symbols or signs. That's why it is allow the to manage the system and locate potential system problems. So you can touch the schedule. Radiators used in solar applications should be connected in series. Actually, you don't connect the controller in parallel. You connect it to what? In series. Actually, the good thing with that controller, it has the symbols whereby all the components are routed through it. You have the connection for the provision for the battery, provision for the motor, the rods. So everything is incorporated, but it has to be connected what? In series, the flow comes from the motor. Now this disconnect the area of panels from the battery to avoid overcharging, and disconnect the battery from the load to avoid overcharging. And the connection is done by means of switches, which can be of two types. Now with the controller, if for example the battery is full, of course definitely will be getting the current flow from the motor. So what it does, it has its switches which interrupts the current flow. Though it will not complete a cut-off. Now to ensure that it will go flow in pulses. Otherwise the flow current will be minimum in pulse form. So those switches, of course, there are some controllers which use relays or the bipolar transistor. Actually, with the transistor, you can use it for amplification or even as a switching mechanism. Now, most cases equipped with, I find that those controllers, many of them have LED indicators, others have the LCD, which is that is the what? Logic display or analog display. Now, we saw the other meter. Of course, what we are seeing yesterday, what have been using, those are the digital meters, but we also have the analog meters. The same applies to the controller. We have the digital which has logic display, and the analog. The analog, for example, like that one doesn't have a scale, but there are some controllers which have the scale, right? Instead of the what? Instead of having displaying, the difference between digital and analog is that with digital it shows discrete value, whereas analog it just shows you physical values. Now, indicators show the condition of charge discharge system. Also, the normal battery state, when the battery is full, when charge short-circuited. So all those indicators can tell what the user what is happening in the system. Now, for example, with if the battery is fully charged, I think those who have been using the controller, it shows you green. That's when it is fully charged. And when you see this trickling, as you'll be seeing, that is another state of when it's charging. You get the point? And when it's shorting or when the battery is really empty, it shows you red. And when you see orange, that's when it's almost halfway, 50. Yeah, those are the signs. Those are the indicators. And another thing that before forget is that many people end up spoiling the charge controller because of the poor connection. Now that controller, as you are seeing it has a provision for the load, it has a provision for the battery, it has a provision for the module. So when you are connecting your system, never connect the module, the charge controller first. You do that, in most cases, the controller will be spoiled. Simply because there's no saturation within the what? There's no allowance which is standard for the controller for the saturation. As when you, for example, you are shorting the solar panel. When you short the solar panel, it's not affected, but the controller will be affected. So what you have to do, when you are connecting any system in the field, you have to connect the charge controller first to the battery. Once you are connected to the battery, then you connect to the module. Now the battery has got the cells. That saturation within, if there is that saturation within the what? Within the cells doesn't have any problem. So that should be taken as one of the precautions. Now indicators show the condition of charge discharge system. All those are talked about it. So you have to know when is the battery full, what should be the sign, when it is a short circuiting somewhere, what it means. Yeah. So the signs are very important. Now, it also, of course, that indicates, for example, if the panel was stored, it was of course put in the roof, you can just observe on the indicators what's happened. So that indicator indicates whether the current is flowing in the battery or not. Now, causes of light off during daytime. Now, there are many cases. Now, for example, we usually talk of daytime because at night, of course, there are clouds, there is darkness, and you don't expect any input from the module. Unlike the pyranometers, there is a difference. Like now the pyranometers which are measuring the solar radiation intensity, at night you find there's some irradiance which is measured, small irradiance which is measured, but with the module, more or less you almost having nothing, almost having zero. So when the light is off on the controller, there are many things actually to put forward. Either there's a loose connection in the battery or model cable, or the fuse has blown, or the circuit breaker is off, or even the motor might have been stolen. So those are the factors which must be considered before concluding that, let's say your control is faulty, or it has gone bad. Now, you always see that on some controllers, it shows the state of trickle. That's trickle, that's when the battery is charging. Now we have our stand-alone throttle system. Now in that case, when you consider that system, you find that those modules are connected what? Those modules are connected in series. Because you have negative being connected to positive. If there are similar ends, positive, that's going to be in parallel. And I have the charge controller, which is connected in series with what? With that module. Now, with this standalone system, some standalone system, you may not be having the what? The batteries. Now, for example, when you are starting the pumping of water using this DC pump, which is not, there are those which are not submerged, but there are those which are just put, and you put the hose pipe in the source where you are going to pump the water from. Now, with that one, you can, this is the standalone, you can decide to put the battery, you just put your reservoir where you want the water to be pumped. Now, when there's enough sun radiation with enough current being generated, the pumping will take place. When the current is lowered, it stops. It will start where it stopped. So there's no need of monitoring. That's the standalone photovoltaic. System. Now, you may also have the cooling of the room. There's some DC fan, which you just connect. When it is very hot, definitely the fan will be on. When the sun goes down, it will stop. You just see the fan stopping, meaning the sun is now down. So those are there. But when you're using the pump, some people are using the pump without the controller. But the controller which you use for the pump is not the same as this. There is a pump controller which you have to use, but not this that one cannot work for the pump. There is a special controller for what? For the pumping system. Now, how the charge controller works? In order to protect the battery from dissipation, the switch opens the charging circuit when the voltage in the battery reaches this high voltage disconnect. Now, the controller, a good controller must have those provisions. There's high voltage disconnect, low voltage disconnect, and some even have the low disconnect voltage. Now, with the low voltage disconnect, prevent the battery from over discharging or shedding the load. So in other high voltage disconnect, when you find that the battery is full and the current is still flowing, now what the high voltage disconnect is done, it will just close so that the current is now shorted within the panel. If it is the operation, if it is low as compared to the battery voltage, it will open. You shall see that. Now, modern regulators are also able to automatically disconnect the panels during the night to avoid charging of the battery. They can also theoretically overcharge the battery to improve their life. Now, when selecting a regulator, most people actually what they do, when they are selecting the regulator or the controller, or even most of the panel, many people make a mistake of studying the voltage. The voltage is not very important. What is important is the driving current, the charging current. That's the most important item or parameter. Now, for example, take an example. You have, let's say, that phone charger, okay, which is like a 6.3 watts and has, let's say, 50 milliamps. I get another charger of 6.3 watts of 20 milliamps. Okay? Now, if you go with that charger of 2 milliamps when the rating was 20, when the rating was 50, your battery will what? Get full. So that means it will never do the purpose as I expected. So with this regulator, you must be very keen when you are making your selection. Either you are buying the controller, or even the controller can be under what? Underrated. So you must consider the current. After applying the current, it must match with the operating voltage of the system. And the operating voltage of the system is definitely the battery. If it is 12 volts, then the controller should be of 12 volts. Then the current, which is the maximum current which is expected what? To be what from the model. So it should have to be a bit, there should be an allowance on that current. So when selecting a regulator, you should know the operating voltage and the maximum current that can handle. The operating voltage will be 12 volts. Of course, the systems, the applications which are relying on 12, the battery of 12 volts, 24 volts, or even 48, depending on your selection. The only bad thing with the DC, with this PV, is that when you select the 24 volts, it means all your appliances must be based on what? 24. If it is 48, it must be based on 48. Unless you have another provision of resetting down. But again, unless you have another, but the bulb, if it is 24, or the bulb should be 24. And if it is 12, all must be 12 volts. Apart from actually what you are getting from the socket, of course, to be 12 volts, but can be stepped down using what? You can using any variable, let's say transformer, like a variable, you can even lower it down. But so long as that means you can lower it down, but when you are going, you are rectifying it because they will be using what? This thing. So the maximum current must be 20% bigger than the current provided by the area of the panels connected to the regulator. So other features and type of interest include that we have talked about LVD, which is low voltage disconnect, RLV, that is low reconnect voltage, and high voltage disconnect. Now, support with the temperature compensation, there are some controllers which have that compensation for the temperature. Now, the voltage that indicates the state of charge of the battery varies with temperature. For that reason, some meters are able to measure the battery temperature and collect the different cutoff and connection values. So there are some modern ones which have that provision of measuring the temperature of the battery. So that control I've given you can see those symbols. They are the central point for connecting the load, module, and battery. So the connection becomes very, very simple. The only one is how you connect to it. Okay? So managing the system can easily be done so that electricity is harvested effectively. Now it is now it is as I saying, talk about the brain of the system, like the CPU being the brain of the computer, where all the processing is originated from. So the same applies to controller. It is the brain of the PV system. So that one, I think you have already seen that. Then that one. So the low battery notify the user that battery is in a low state of charge. Saves the user the need to continuously use the voltmeter to know the state of charge. Different controllers have different indications. Now, that is what you are having there. So you find that you have the array that is the module. You have the battery. You have the battery, which is whereby when you put the battery, you must follow the priorities. And interchanging of priorities is very dangerous. And these are the indicators. This is where you're taking the load. Now, it's not good to connect direct your inverter here. It is better to connect it from the what? From the battery. After the battery would have been regulated using the what? Using the controller. Now, if you want to prove that the controller is doing its part, when you connect the controller and the battery, you try your voltmeter, then you measure the voltage there. Get the point? If, for example, that panel is 18 volts, at that point, you'll be able to get the voltage 18 volts. That's another proof that you are generating voltage from what? From the module. Then when you have done that, you connect your voltmeter across this provision where the battery is what? Connected. You find that if the battery is 12 volts, you find either it is 12 plus or minus certain voltage, like 13, but not going beyond a certain watt. It might be like some 10% of extra, should be running between 12 and 13. And that will be fixed here. That voltage will be the same at the rods, meaning that there is a reduction which has taken place. Now, this indicates that, for example, if you have not put the controller, what you'll be getting, you'll be getting that voltage, which will be routed straight to what? The battery. So that one has to be very, very careful. Okay? Now, the low voltage disconnect to measure the state of charge of the battery when it drops below a set voltage. Most controllers set at 80% discharge. Actually, most controllers are set at that. Now, controllers automatically disconnect it automatically disconnects the load when the load has really drained the battery. So it disconnects the what? The load from getting more charge. In the other words, it controls the over discharging, because you are getting the charge from the battery. And that will usually happen during the powder season. Of course, when there is no what? When there is no sun. Okay. Now, with the controllers, we have two main types. We have the series and the charge regulator. Now, here you have the model. You have the PV. Here you have the series feature. Then you have here the regulator. You have the battery. you have the low voltage disconnect, then you have the load watts. This is the this is the switch also for controlling the flow of the current, and this is DC load. So this is in series, and this is series regulator, and this is the shunt, whereby we have the high voltage disconnect. It is in parallel. Okay. Now this is the battery, and this is the regulator. This is the low voltage disconnect. Then this is also the load switches, which is controlling the what? The DC load. Now we find these features are inbuilt within the controller. This LVD and high voltage, they are inbuilt within the controller, which are controlling that sequence of operation. Now let us consider the series regulator. Now at day break, during the day, the RF voltage rises. Now this is the model, and this is the symbol for the solar module. Now here there is current which is flowing. Now when the regulator senses that there is flow of current, okay? S1, when does S1 opens? This S1 opens when the voltage of the battery is very high. That means if the voltage is very high, it cannot allow the flow of the current to proceed. But the load, it will be getting the charges from the what? The current from the charge controller. So here it will open and there will be no flow. But if the voltage of the battery is low, then this charge controller will allow the flow of the current by closing this switch, S1. So there will be a charging taking place. And if the battery is overdrained, for example at night, there's no current flowing, but the battery is overdrained, there will be this charge controller. It will switch off its flow to disconnect, and this switch will open. So there will be a flow of the current. So current flows from array to battery and drops. S1 opens when battery voltage reaches high VD, and no current flows direct to what? The battery. Now various signs. One is step interrupt, 2 step constant current sign, then series power width modulation what? Sign. Now we find that PWM, stands for the power width modulation design, meaning that of course there's a sequence which is taking place. When the battery is undercharged, there is a flow of the what? Of the current. When it is overcharged, there will be a disconnect, and there will be pulses within what? Within the system, as well as when it is being drained. So that sequencing, it is summarized within that design of the power width modulation. There is a modulation within what? Within the system. Now in step 2, design, on approaching high voltage disconnect, a trigger charge flows into the battery. So that trigger charge, those are the pulses. Those are the pulses. And the pulses are almost like you have a square wave. It is operating under two states. We have on and off, on and off. It comes down. That is what's called Yeah, the electrical charge in terms of what? Pulse. The light pulses is in a square form. So it will stay in that state until the battery level is brought down by loads. Now at night flow, any new timer that is activated 10 hours after the sunrise, open the charging relay. You know, there are some controllers which have that provision, others doesn't have. But if current is still flowing, it closes and opens at 2 hours interval until no more current flows. So there's that one actually, that detector, which detects that even at night, when you find, for example, especially when they're at night, definitely you expect the battery to be being what? Drained. There's no incoming current, but what is being done is it is using what was stored. So that's why the part is played. When it is overdrained, that's when the current flow is cut. So real estate stays open until sunrise and process repeats. Now we come to the shunt regulator. So we find the other one was in series regulator. It was connected in series, but now in this case we have the high voltage disconnect. It is in parallel, the module. Then you have the battery, then you have the low voltage disconnect. This is our load. Now this one of course is a diode. The other so it's why it is there. In other words, as you saw the diode, it is a directional semiconductor device which only allows current flowing on direction. So for that one, it prevents the backflow and the current. So in this shunt regulator, now somebody may ask that why is it that in this case you are not seeing the controller? Now this future and that one is inbuilt within what? Within the controller. So this is actually not sure how it is working. It is within the controller. Now, when the battery voltage is low as compared, if the battery voltage is very low, this high voltage disconnect, it will open. Now in this case, as soon as the voltage rises higher than the battery bar, if battery voltage is lower than HVD level, HVD closes. This one is not, there's a mistake here. Get the point? Now, if the battery voltage is lower than the high voltage disconnect, therefore, now HVD closes. Now this one, it is not closing, it is opening. And once it is opened, the charging will commence. Because this one, the voltage is low. Now, if this voltage here is higher than at this state, this high voltage disconnect, it will cross and it will short the module. That means the current will take the easiest path. This C has a very low resistance, very low. So the current, instead of taking that load, it will take that load and you'll be shorting the module. And then as I said, the solar module doesn't have any effect in shorting it. So you will have no. And when the battery is overdrained by the load, this feature here, low voltage display, it will disconnect the load from from the battery. So that's how the shunt regulator works. Now, when in shunt mode, the regulator works in power moderation depending on other currents. It continues until the battery falls below HVD level. Now, in that case, that sign, the block diode is incorporated to block the batteries discharging through the array. That means it is preventing, this diode here is preventing the backflow of the current into the module. That's the reason of that. Because the current cannot go back because the resistance of that diode is very big. So it's only has to be from forward mode. Now, we have this maximum point tracker, so I get controller. Now, that is of course, you find these controllers are almost like this is our computer. The power supply, which actually it's almost like that phone, this phone here, it's in a tower form, right? But the other design, which are almost, but it's a bit big, but it has a different technology which is embedded within. And it's a very important circuit controller which is on market, and it is used actually when you're having a certain watts, a certain voltage, high power rating of your system. Now, this maximum power tracker, circuit controller, is the controller embedded with MPPT algorithm to maximize the amount of current going to the battery of the PV module. Now, this MPPT, okay, this is a software. Okay, this algorithm, it is a software which is inbuilt within the what? Within that tracker. Now, maximum power point tracker is a DC to DC converter which operates by taking DC inputs from PV module. Now, changing it to SC and converting it back to different DC voltage, and the current exactly match the PV module, the battery. Now, that controller, now you know there are certain voltage, power rating, where you cannot use this controller, where you have unless when you have combined, you have subdivided into different divisions, but instead of doing that, that's when you end up going for that. Now, maximum point tracker can supply power to this rod that's connected directly to what? The battery. That is the type. Okay, when you go to the market, it is there. Like those actually what? And I've seen many of them on the Bombo Road. Okay, that there's a shop, in the shop of each part, where they have many of those, but of different rating. So that's one of the type for the MPPT what? Controller. Now I want to see how do the maximum power point tracker works. Now, of course, actually, when you saw in your, when you are doing the IV characteristic, of course, this point is our short circuit current. That's at that point there, when the VOC is what? Of course, at maximum, at short circuit current, we have the VOC. We have the voltage 0. That means there's no power. Now at short circuit, open circuit voltage, here we are having the maximum voltage here, and we're having the current 0. So you find the power speed is what? 0. So that's why you cannot base on ICS and VOC. And now, in this case, if you want to get the maximum current at maximum power, this point here is going to be somewhere here. Then the maximum voltage at that very point. So we are going to consider these 2 points, and that point, not that, to see how the MPPT works. And actually, the efficiency of the solar module to be efficient, this one actually would have been almost more or less like a rectangle where you have a bigger surface area. Now, the maximum point tracking is a high efficient DC-to-DC converter technology compared to charge controller and pulse width modulation technologies. The traditional charge controller may charge a battery with a voltage that's dictated by the battery. By nature, the voltage of a fully charged battery is higher than that of a discharged battery. Now, in this case, what you must consider is that when you have the battery, there's current which is flowing from the module. Then you have the voltage, which is also what? But that current which is flowing from the module is more or less constant. But the voltage will vary depending on the system voltage. And the system voltage is dictated by the battery you are using. So consider the voltage and the current. The current as said from the module, it is more or less fixed. There will be some slight variation, but the voltage will vary due to something from the what? Of the battery and the rods.
Like when you look at solar kits in the market, then you have they have the transformers or 5 in-built like lights. Is that the type of charge controller they're using with MPPT?
No. Let us first see how it comes to it. Just get compare and see actually your question. I'm going to give an example. You see, I think that understand very well. Now, consequently, the power drawn by unlimited battery is usually lower than that of a full battery. That's correct. Now, the question arises when you don't start, there's a power loss that you are not utilizing when your batteries are empty. When my power goes, you actually start wondering where your power went. Now, the maximum power tracker utilizes the whole module power by dictating the voltage of the battery charging state. First of all, this maximum power point tracker, it does not dictate so much on the battery's rating voltage. Now, of course, you know, the battery, if it is 12 volts, it can go, even if it goes to 14, between 12 and 14, it's not affected. Unless when it goes beyond a certain value. So it is almost matching. Actually, it is from the almost low as we're seeing. You can raise the current slightly, and you are the voltage slightly, and end up getting what? The same power rating you're aiming at. Now, the charge controller keeps the voltage and the current at unauthorized level where the modules deliver the most what? Trace. Now, let us take an example. Now, assume that we are using a module. That's Evergreen SA210. It means that module is 210 watts. Okay? Sometimes actually they may find a module where there is no unit, but it is 30 ohms. That means that is 210 watts, which has the maximum power, maximum voltage and maximum power of 18.3 volts and 1 amp, the maximum current at maximum power being 11.48. Now, that rating is, you are getting the maximum voltage at maximum power and maximum current at maximum power, which is, of course, you know power is equal to VI. Your wattage power rating expected is 210. That's to be operating at maximum. Okay? And now you consider this case. An empty 12 volts battery may generate have 0.2 volts. Therefore, the battery will be charged by 11.48, which is the other current. Maximum current times its 12.2 volts. Now, with the controller, which is a nano MPPT, for it will detect that. For it will detect that. It cannot go beyond 12.2 because it doesn't have that ability of doing and setting within the system. So it's going to have 12.2 volts, and when you compute the power, you're going to have 140. Now, you're going to start wondering where your 70 might have gone. You get the point? So it is significantly less than the maximum available output of 210 watts of the motor. Now, that's when our MPPT is going to come in. Give another example to simplify it further. I think this one will also. Now, let me assume that you are given a solar module rated at 40 watts, okay? And its voltage at maximum power is 29.7 V, right? And the current is 8.1 amps at maximum power. Now, the power rating here is going to be 240 watts. Get the point? Now, what the MPPT is going to do, we want to ensure that we have 40. What the MPPT is going to do is going to, first of all, focus on the voltage of the battery. The voltage of the battery is 12.7. Get the point? And the current is 8.1. So its inbuilt mechanism, it has the ability of stepping up the current at a certain level, as well as the voltage, but not going beyond the limit of the battery. So it raises the current from 8.1 to 14.4, then the voltage is 3.7. Or if it raises the voltage to 15, then 15, again, if it raises to 15, no, not 15, if it goes to 18, the current, then this one should be a bit low, 13.5, so to get this. I don't know whether it is it somewhere? Now the thing is, you have the solar module, like that one there, this is its rating, 240. And its specification, the voltage at maximum power is 29.7. It has also that specification of the maximum current at maximum power is 8.1. Now, by the computation, we have the power is equal to 40 volts. Now, assuming we are using the nano MPP, this simple controller, without that inbuilt algorithm mechanism, right? We are going to have this. That means that's why our efficiency is very low. You get the point? That's why our efficiency is almost between 10 and 20%. Now you imagine what you are getting. And the reason why you are getting this is dictated by the operating system you are using on the battery, which is the 12 volts and can go further 12.7. So what the maximum power point tracker does, it raises the current to a certain value as well as the voltage, but not beyond the specified rating of the battery when supposed to be free charged. Like in this case, it raises the current 16.7 and the voltage 14.4, it is still within the limit. Sometimes when you are charging the battery, you can even go to 15, but you can't go beyond that. When you compute this and that, you find that your power is maintained as 40. It is actually doing like a stabilizer. When you have the stabilizer, like you have UPS, because UPS just holds the voltage for a period of time, so that you can save and the system switches off. Alright? is also qualified from the stabilizer. Stabilizer, okay, it has the stabilizer if you are setting it at 240. If there is a voltage going beyond 240, it brings it back to 240. If it goes beyond 240, it raises up to. So that is some similarity with that input mechanism. I don't know whether it is you have the question before you can go far because that point right there.
Like if you're using the MPPT controller, you don't need a stabilizer.
No, I'll just give you the example. You don't need, I was just giving an example of this, the mechanism of the stabilizer. Okay, you don't need the stabilizer here. So I'm just showing you the similarity between how it can be a bit similar to what? The stabilizer, but not, there's that some similarity.
I just wanted to know, the summations you put 16.7a.
Yeah, I just want to show you that's current. Why I did that to show that this is the current. It has been stepped up from 8.1 to 16.7. Then the voltage from 0.7 to 14.4. Yeah, that's why I put the units. Other people I do there. After VA, after some, you find some controller and inverter. Instead of putting watts, they put VA. Those are the units which are usually in use. Now, what a maximum power point charge controller does is that it boosts the voltage and the current of the system as close as the IV curve of the module. Now, in this case, the maximum power point charge controller charges the battery at almost 13.3 volts and 11.48 while using the most out of the battery. Last note here is that maximum power point tracking technology has nothing to do with the solar tracking. So the maximum power point is only a control feature for what? The battery. But for the low power rating, you don't need the maximum power controller. You only need at a very high watt power rating. Let's say beyond 50 and above. Now inverters, now conventionally, there are two ways in which electrical power is transmitted.
Yes, please. Before we get into the controllers, there's something I want to know on the type controller.
Yeah.
There is a situation whereby some other people can set a controller to work in there at night.
There's what?
There's a situation where people can set the, like this one here, to work on at night. Most especially a lot of noise. This lights.
At night, that's what using the timer.
Yes. So I wanted to know how that mechanism can work.
Now, for example, like if you have the timer, now of course it will be storing what? It will have stored the charges. Get the point? But again, for example, if you have the timer and then the battery will have been connected to what? The controller. It will be showing you still the state of the condition of the what? Of the battery. Okay? Now, if for example, like if there's a time mechanism which has been done that at certain voltage, you must have this diversion of the what? The operation, then that's when the indicators can what? So there must be a control based on the timing process within the what? Within the control. That's what I think. Yeah. That is my. If there is any person who can, but that is my view. That if you are using the timer and there's a timing sequence which has been combined within the controller, of course you'll be monitoring the charges on the battery and the load. Yeah. So those indicators will be based on what? On the price of the charge. If the charges, if for example, like the charges is almost being drained, that timer, it will cut off, it will show that there is a disconnect, which is what? Which is being done. Yeah, that's what I think. Any other contribution? That's what I think. Yeah, on that case.
But now, how did that timer, how would it be connected?
Now, the timer will be connected based on what? Based on the features. Like we have the switches, the low voltage disconnect, high voltage disconnect. So all that is based on that feature which is internally connected, which is inbuilt within the controller. So the timing sequence is based on the switching mechanism within the controller. Yeah, that's how it is.
Initially, when these jet controllers are developed, the field known as semiconductor was not developed to a level where you could control things to the nitty and to the last detail. But as time went on, there are other devices, control devices like microcontrollers, where you have the functionality of the jet controller being modeled through like some sort of software. So you can have this jet controller can have more than these 6 outputs you see.
Yeah.
So you have maybe the load outputs being switched on depending on the program you've run the microcontroller. But there are some Chinese jet controllers where you can actually put a 12-hour timer, a 6-hour timer. So during the day it does not enable. It's like there's a really old switch, a small switch that opens at some time, then closes at some time. So that helps. If you have security lighting, it can never go on. Yeah, during the day, unless somehow someone resets that controller. But it works more or less in the way the street lights, some street lights in Kampala. It's in the day. They will be on in the night, but never on during the day, unless power goes off and the time resets itself.
And actually, with that one, to depend, for example, like there are some lamps, actually, which are actually when there's darkness, it is sensitive to darkness, whereby you don't need everybody to all the time to switch on and off. So, by during the day, it cannot come on. So at night, it will just come on. So there's some light which is also on the market, where you don't need to go on actually somebody actually to be switching on and off. You simply install those lights. When it is dark, it comes on. It's also there on the market. Now,
Actually, like there are situations where a person is using hydro and is having solar.
yeah.
Like if the hydro goes off, the solar just connects. You can't realize that the power is gone.
Yeah, that means there's a changeover switching system. That's when you have the changeover. Whereby when
automatically.
yeah, when it goes off, you just switch off. So that was what? So it's like actually when you're having the generator, when the power goes off, when it's properly connected, when there's a changeover switch, the moment it goes off, you will just see the generator coming on automatically. That means there is a changeover switch mechanism. So that's what is taking place.
Well, I can add a little bit of that. I have an inverter in my office which acts as a UPS. When power goes, you don't realize there is a change from the battery to the system. Just like the UPS of the computer. It has small batteries inside and also has the mains. The only thing you know that shows you that power has gone is a beep. Otherwise, you won't see anything happening or a shaky thing. You switch directly. So the UPS, those systems you are talking about are like that system of the UPS of the computer, but on a larger scale. So you have a battery which is being charged by your panel, and then when it is filled or it is charged up and hydro goes, it switches to the battery straight. So that's the same system that you are trying to talk about. envision it in the form of a UPS or a computer. That's mine.
Okay, thank you. Now, we say now alternating current, of course, we say the inverter, that's actually you use the inverter when you are aiming at getting what? When you have other appliances which are using SC. But if you don't have any appliance using SC, you don't go for the inverter. Reason, of course, actually, the incorporation of the inverter in the system, there are some losses which are expected due to what? That inverter incorporation. So if you don't need SC, then don't go for what? But if you need SC, by all means you have to use the inverter. And for example, when you have the grid connection, actually with that one, you even don't need the what? You only need the SC, you don't need any DC within the what? You'll be routing everything to what? The grid. So that's where the inverter is coming in. So we find alternating current power consists of a sinusoidal voltage source in which a continuously changing voltage and current can be used to employ magnetic components. Now, long distance electrical transmission favors SC power since the voltage can be boosted easily with what? With the transformer. Now, we find the electrical device, that is, of course, that one we know, it is an electrical device that converts DC to SC. It is used where SC electricity is required. It is ideal for grid ties or electric fencing. It is not recommended for system below 100 watts. The reason why it is not recommended for system below this is that when you actually start imagining the losses, and usually the losses due to the operation of the inverter is usually 15%. And the losses which are expected in let's say, in the cabling is usually 10%. So when you add the losses, as will be seen in sizing, you find the losses is almost 25. That's smart. So if, for example, you have a system which is using this, I wouldn't have to expect somebody to use what? The 100 watts, the inverter. So this is due to the cost and energy losses in the what? In the system. Now, types of inverters. Now, these are classified according to the output waveform. Now, we have the square wave, we have the modified sine wave, and have the pure sine wave, which is the two sides. Now, actually, what you are having in the market, what you are having in our local market is mainly the square wave, and you have few modified sine wave. And you are surprised. For example, this is what you are having here. You'll be feeling it. You can just pass around. You can even sense its weight. That is a pure sine inverter, which is after Victron. It is a very good product. For example, you have a pure sine wave of let's say 180, like that one is 180 watts, right? Now, if you have a 350 square wave inverter or 350, you may find that a sine wave of 180 drives the load much efficiently than a square wave of 350. And that's why that sine wave, pure sine wave, is even expensive. Like that product there, it is something like, it used to be, now it's 300 I think, but it has been at 350 sometime back. Whereas a square wave of 350, you could get it even at 200 or even 180,000. And what is actually flying in the market is the square wave. simply because people, they can't afford the pure sine wave, and people don't base on the quality of the, what is of quality of the output. Maybe it's depending on the client. I mean, the people who are the experts, the installers. Now, let me take an example. I think this is an advice. It's like after when you're doing the electrical installation and you're installing a building for somebody and he starts crying because of money. Now, for example, if you specify that for the socket, you must all the time be fixed on your standard. If, for example, you know that for the socket is 2.5 millimeters and the lighting 1.5 millimeters, and your client starts crying of money, but because you want money, he even gives you the option that, you know what you do? Because you have specified 1.5 being cheap, you say just use everything on 1.5. And you accept. That's very dangerous in that if you do the installation for that very person, the lights will be on and you'll be happy. But if any problem arises and experts are called upon, he will not say, he will not disclose that the one who against. He will say, you will find the expert who did the work for him. So you better stick on your what? If you insist that it has to be 0.5, you must use 2.5 for the socket. And 1.5 for the lighting. Even if he cries, you'd rather leave the job instead of doing it. Otherwise you'll be in problem. So the same applies to this square wave. For the quality, for the good work to be done, the good advice is to base on the pure sine wave, not the square wave. Modified sine wave, it can be also referred to, but it has some bit of harmonics, as we just said. But the best one would be sine wave, which is actually like a pure sine wave. If you have a voltage drop straight by 12 volts, the pure sine wave will resist that one and you have the power. But the square wave definitely will cut off. So now, the square wave inverters produce a square pulse at output used transistor switching circuitry, produces harmonics and cause radio interference, is unsuitable for some appliances. Well, it can be used, but for certain appliances, that's where you can't use the square wave, like when you have the motion of the transformers and the motors. Now, if you can look at this wave, now at this point here, the operation of that square wave inverter, here there is operation. You get the point? Here, there is no operation. It operates, here there is no operation. That's why it is not efficient. Okay? That's how it is what? It's not efficient. And when you actually feel it, the reason why it is even when you feel like that square wave inverter, it is very light. Reason it is transformerless. Doesn't have the what? Doesn't have the transformer. It is based on the electronic what? Design within its system. That's why it is light. Now, inverters with transformers are heavy and more expensive. Okay, with that one, there is also that one 180, 350 and above. So that is one of what you are going to use. We have 180 and 350. So transformerless solar inverters, the lack of transformer then makes them lighter and slightly less efficient than equivalent inverters with transformers. And the transformers, those are the pure sine wave. That one has the transformer. We have the modified sine wave inverter. The modified sine wave inverter generates a broken wave which has none of the smoothness of the sine wave. They do not offer the same perfect electrical output. As such, a negative byproduct of modified output unit is electrical noise. Now that means that well, the modified sine wave is better than the square wave, but because of the improvement of its properties, that's why it's called modified. It is a bit better than the square wave. So modified sine wave is quite okay. Now, for example, many TVs and stereos use power supplies incapable of eliminating common mode noise. As a result, powering such equipment with a modified square wave may cause a great or small amount of snow or harm. Harm, that is the noise on your sound what? System. Now, that is a modified square wave. Now, you can see, now if you have a pure sine wave, it will be of that kind. That means there is a conductance in that cycle. Even in this cycle, that means there is a pure oscillation throughout. Now, when you come to the square wave, this is our square wave, you find the modification of that one comes at least to this. There is some modification, though there is some harmonics. Those square features, right? Yeah, which is what it has been improved a bit, but there's still that element of the square wave. But somehow there's an improved what? State as compared to it. Yeah. So this is the pure sine wave, modified one, and this is the square. Now, choice of inverter. Actually, when you are considering the inverter, when you are looking for the inverter and you have done your sizing, you must base at many things. The first point is even the power rating, the current, and what? And even the voltage of the operating system. The voltage operating system is the battery voltage. That is the system voltage. So the point of inverter is important. Now, you must also consider the weight, size, of course, and even the price. Quality inverters are heavy and large in size. And instead of being double up, go for a quality type of inverter. Based on the quality, by going for the pure sine. Then that inverter, they have some actually have even the low voltage disconnect. They even put that indication like on that seal which is put behind what. Some inverters come with that. Then the side rating also sometimes also indicated. Now, before coming to that, let us first see, many of you can try actually when you go back. This is the modification of the circuit diagram of an inverter. Now, first of all, if I can just, first of all, this is a transformer, right? This is a resistor. This is a diode. This one is a big diode, IA. This is also a diode. This point is connected. This is a type transformer. Now, we have, let's say, rural areas. You don't have the money to buy what? To buy that inverter. And this is your source of power, which is giving you 12 volts. And we have this transistor here, transistor 1. You have transistor 2. You have this transistor, you have this transistor. You have this capacitor. This capacitor and this capacitor, they are electric capacitor. That means they have the polarities, right? So, and this is And this resistor here, and this resistor, these are resistors which are not carbon resistant. You know, there are certain range of power where you cannot have the carbon resistor. Like for example, this is a 5 watts. The 5 watts resistor, because these are the sizes of the resistors. You may find it in clay form. It's on the market, and this is 5 watts. This is also 5 watts, and this is carbon, and even this is carbon resistor. So this is electrolytic capacitor, even this is electrolytic what? Capacitor. Now this point here is this is positive, this is also positive. Now before using these two transistors, you can have one transistor here without this one first, and even you leave out this one first. Get the point? Now when you leave out this transistor, this is, of course, this is the this NPN, or these are in NPN. When the R is pointing down, it's NPN. If it is pointing to the base, of course, this is a transistor which is a filter devices, which has the base, emitter, and the collector. That's in electronics. Now you find that if you don't have these two transistors connected together, this resistor and this capacitor, it will burst. Within the shortest time, it will burst. That means this resistor to become very hot, even this one will become very hot because there will be a very high voltage. Maybe having a voltage here, which is high, which has been stepped up, but the current will be low. But the potential of that PD will make this one burst. Now, what you need is to improve on how are you going to reduce that that effect. Now, what you have to do is to get the two transistors, you form a diaton pair. Whereby a diaton pair, you find, when you are making a diaton pair, these two transistors, you find this transistor is driving, Q3 is driving Q1. Okay? And Q2 is also driving Q1. Q3 is driving Q, okay, this is, no, this I think this is the Q3, this is Q4. Then this is Q2, this is Q1. So this one is driving that, this one is driving that. The reason why you are using the Darlington pair is that you are increasing, you have a very high impedance being created there. It has a very high impedance, and the gain is also high. Okay? Now there's a difference between resistance and impedance. Of course, resistance is the opposition of the current flow, but with direct current. Whereas impedance is the opposition of the current flow within an electronic component or in a circuitry or system. That is the difference between impedance, and impedance is dealing with AC, not DC. So, how it's operating is like this. Now, when you have the battery here, when you have the voltage, there will be current flow. When the current flows through R4, this capacitor, C2, it will charge through R4. You get the point? When it is charging through R4, it will discharge through Q3. Then Q3 will drive Q1 by connecting to the base, and you have an oscillation. Now, the first point which you must mark is that a transformer will never step up the voltage, will never step up the direct voltage or current. It must step up the alternating what? Current. That's why these two transistors, this diaton pair, of course, is forming one chip. This also one chip now. And when you go to the market, you just look for the diaton pair, you give the specification. And when you are making, for example, if you fail to get a specification and you have these two transistors must have the equivalence in this operation, it must be equivalent and must be similar also to this. So this couple must be the same as that. Okay? So these transistors must be oscillators and must be amplified. So now this oscillator, this one charges to its peak, it will discharge to free, and it will drive to one, and there will be an oscillation. Whereby that oscillation, it will be rooted to that point. The reason why you have this diode is to prevent the backflow. Okay? So the operation of these two transistors, it will never operate at the same time. So when this one is fully, as this one is discharging through this one also, this is also charging R3. When R3 charges C1 discharges through Q2, whereby Q2 transistor drives Q1, and there will be an oscillation, whereby that oscillation, there will be an oscillation which will go direct to that point, and this C diode, it will prevent the backflow. So you find that when you combine what has been oscillated with this and that, it will come out that voltage which would have been stepped up to 220. Actually, I would love if somebody could try this, because it's not a mere to put up the circuit diagram there. I tried after this. This was one of my projects, whereby I succeeded by lighting a 10 watts 1% tube. Actually, on my bachelor, that's when I did that project, and it worked. So it only reached the 10 watts fluorescent light. So we thought it will work very well, and all this will be in the very cooling mode. That's how it is. It works. So this capacitor should be electrolytic. This one should be carbon, and this one must be a diamond pair. Simply because to have a high impedance, to have a high power gain within the system. Do you have any question with this one? Actually, when you are having this transformer, you must ensure that this is a primary with low number of turns, whereby the low resistance as compared to the output. Because what you are expecting, you are going to have a very high voltage.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Musoke. Just to add on what he has been telling you, over the same circuit, in fact, what he's trying to say is that is a search of an inverter. In other words, before you fail to get money by the other, which is already made, you can also try it yourself by getting a step-down transformer, the other transformer which is up. It depends on the way you want to use it. For that case, is using the center tap, which actually would have been the secondary, to take the small voltage generated by the circuit, and then the other side of the primary, which is having the overwinding to step up the voltage. Now, over the R1 and R2, those are wire-only resistors of high current, about almost 5 watts as I said. And then B1, B2, these are the regulator or rectifier diodes we were talking about the other side when we started. That was yesterday. So, by connecting them in that mode, as we are connected them, one, we are using NPN transistors, in that we don't want again the positive to flow this ends of the transistor, of the transformer. So we need to keep the positive in the middle, then either side it is negative. And those two transistors are working in multi-vibrator, one at a time. As one charges off, then the other takes over. So as we go on the multi-vibration, using one end the other, the transformer is relative the center tap point will be still keeping on the voltage to step up, and then you get that out. So if it is of interest, you can copy, then take the component specifications, you try it.
So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Analyst. Now this actually, these capacitors, you must consider the time constants. That's the suppose actually how the other way, because it can't remain the same thing. That switching on, I mean, that discharging rate, it should be, the time constant should be big. That's why you get the changeable one.
Does it mean that's a locally made inverter?
Yeah, this one, what you do actually, for example, if you don't have the money, what you do, like for me, I just got these components. I got the battery. After connecting all this, I only needed to have the 12 volts. That's what I only needed. So when I got the 12 volts in the battery, I connected to the circuit, and I had what? The inverter.
Well, how do you get the watts, like 1,000 or beyond that? How do you get it out?
Which one?
It is locally made an inverter. Like now, you have made an inverter, but looking at the output you want to connect to.
Let me answer. Yes, give me a chance. First of all, to move off the other one, you see, locally made. You see, it is you to create what you want, but behind that is the content. I designed this for Dr. Okulo. He wanted now to take the signal from the solar and then try to connect it with the computer so that at least can link the two. But after cutting this and spraying it, it now becomes an important one. So you can better that by saying that make it and then you call it anything. Now over the wattage, just as you see there, the two transistors combined in the Darlington player is looking at increasing the current. Now from the proposal, if I may say, you now have to put heat sinks across the video transistors. That is now one trying to protect them from overheating. Because as you do that, then now you are increasing the life and the strength of those transistors. Secondly, the type also of the transistor matters. For this case, he's using, let me see the number. He's using 2N3055. Yes, those are good transistors, about 5A each, 5 amps. So when you add on a heat sink, then now you can see what is the maximum power each is driving. Then from there you can determine the wattage.
Thank you. Now for example, like this design, right? Now, if anybody was to actually like this is start already done. Now, if anybody, because I even put the recommendation that the max that very such can, that they can go to is 10 amps. 10 watts. Now, if there's an improvement of the wattage, that means you need to improve on the what? On the electrical components, which are using different transistors and other components. That's how that should be improved in that case. Members, any other question?
Maybe what I may need to know is how to write this transformer or that transformer.
Now, this transformer here, the transformer which I used, actually it was a 12 volts. Actually it was, I remember that transformer it was 20 volts, whereby it was stepped down 20 volts. The setup, you add 10. That was what? The transformer. In the second, of course, I reversed it. This is a step-down transformer of 20 volts. 20 volts. Now, at this point, you just said that at this point, between this and that, there's 10. Between that and that, there's what? There's 10. Okay? Now, if you are used in this circuit, and because you are expecting the oscillation and expecting a very high voltage, you have to reverse. So instead of the secondary, you put it you make it be the input, and the primary make it the output. So these are the local transformer.
Well, those transformers are there on market.
Yeah, they are there in the market at like 15,000.
Yes, around the 2 amps. What
So
I have in mind is to go for a center that with 2 outputs.
I would like you to try this. I think it will be interesting to see the output. Then from there, you can even think of improving on what? On that design. So you can have what and then what? Then what? Any other question as you are, because you are shown according to anything? Well started even on this?
Yes.
Maybe for me to understand that diagram properly, why don't we put on those lines? Why don't we put the positives and the negative inside that? Because
No, okay, this one here is positive. This is positive. This is the positive. Now, this transformer here, okay, you put this transformer, it's a step down transformer, but you put here the reversed. It can be reversed because what you expected, there is oscillation. First of all, these transistors, they are oscillators. Because the reason why they are oscillator, this transformer cannot step up, it either steps down or step up. It will never step up the right kind of voltage. What it does is to step the alternating voltage, and that means you must have an oscillator within the system. Get a point? Yeah. That's why you have these transistors. They are oscillators as well as amplifiers. And if you had only this transistor, without this transistor, you find that this one, it will not even last for like 3 minutes. This capacitor will burst. And this other two will become very hot. Now, however much increase R3 here, let's say to omega, nothing will be done. What's required is the impedance. And that impedance, of course, it is the opposition of the form of the current within electronic circuit or the system, which is involved in the alternating current. But the resistor is the direct current. That's the difference between impedance and whereby that impedance you have the combination of the capacitors and the inductance. Get a point? Yeah.
There's no solution. This is a question. Like you can hear people saying that all my batteries are both stored. There's a reason why.
Yeah. Your battery has got storage. First of all, it can the battery can flow to charge.
And there's some situation where you can still people say that it's
yeah. Now, first of all, it's like having your battery charging. If your battery of the phone, it takes long without being charged. You get the point? Of course, in the definitely this thing with the technology we're going to deal with the battery, but honestly I can answer it. If in the discharging process, it is the plate remains very dry. You get the point? That content will fail to dissolve. Because actually this charging will be dissolving what has been coated on the plate. If it has been taken long without being charged, then that battery, that electrolyte will fail to get dissolved in the solution back into the electrolyte. And that means that battery will be dead. Even the terminal can become, the cells itself can become bad. That one you see is when is about the battery.
now maybe what I may find is that let's say if the matter blows, how can we tell that it is a resistor which has blown? Or a resistor or an iron?
And I think you have heard of that. Actually, it was when you was talking about he said the electronic components. Actually, he said with the electronics, we wanted to get to know how can you do the troubleshooting when you have the system and it's down. And he said, I think I remember very well when he said that if you have a system and the fuse has blown, don't just rush in the replacement of the fuse. You first establish what might have caused the fuse to blow. And that's done by trying to study the components within what? All the stages within the system. And then you can test the diode that when the diode is faulty, how does it behave? You get the point? If a resistor is faulty, how does it behave? If a transformer, for example, if the transformer, you test the output, there's no output. Have you tested the winding? Is there any resistance or it is open? You get the point? So there are very many stages there. You can test the transformer, whether the secondary, now in this case now it's the secondary, whether it is open, or you can test the primary, whether it is open or whether it is shorting. You get the point? You can test the diode, whether it is open or whether it is shorting. You get the point? Even this resistor. A resistor cannot short, but it can almost become open. But if this resistor has bands, it will be open. Even the capacitor, it can leak, but it can be open and short.
Yes, just maybe to make use of the mind that yes, I got it right. I'm taking you back very fast so that the other person as they come, so we don't take their time. Over the faults with resistors, one, it has self-shut resistance. That is, as it goes on heating, it either reduces the resistance or it increases. For example, there my specification is writing 180 ohms, but as you go on using it and it is in that fault, you find that it has either risen to 200 ohms or around 100 ohms. And even by observation, you see that it has that burning sort of indication. Two, if it is a low resistance resistor, it can also open. You find that there is discontinuity. Then for the diode, it can short, it can open, it can leak. I mean, when in either direction, it is passing out instead of working in the forward bias. Then over the capacitors, one observation, it can bulge. You see that the top part of it is almost going to burst out. It can also have leakage. Instead of charging full, as soon as it starts charging, it is about maybe half full, then again it drops. And that actually will even blow fuses because now it will be acting in one or the other like a wire. Then the transistors, those ones, they go the same way diodes are because inside there are two diodes. So it can be short, you measure, of course, with relative to base, to check on the emitter, the collector for each.
So another point which must be considered also is that grounding. That grounding is very important. You are seeing that emitter. So that emitter is connected to that emitter. You are seeing that one? And another thing whereby what must know is that for the system to work very well, these two transistors and the other two should be of the same type. And that actually form a good diamond pair. You must have the similar. You cannot have NPN then PNP being put together. So if you are running for NPN, you must be with NPN. You get the point? If it is the NPN or if it is PNP, then it must be the same. Get the point? So the grounding is very important in that form. Even this capacitor, also very important to be electrolyte capacitor.
That is the pure sign we got.
No, this is the pure sign. It's a pure sign. Though there will be there are some bit of small harmonics which was what? There were some small harmonics which was which was realized, but very small. It was almost pure. In that actually in that design, those oscillators. I mean, yeah, they put the oscillators. Those transistors, the oscillators. They were doing a very good job. So that harmonics were almost very small, and that's why it was managing to light a 10. 10 what? Actually, to hit the 10, not actually because you have 10. Then another is something. Is it? Yeah, the 36. There is also 50, something like that. Yeah. Like this one is, I think, this is the 97, it's very low. 97. But it was 10 watts. But the harmonics was very small. It was very small. Because it reached almost over 6, then I just switched off. I never, when you're doing the research for the project, and yes, over there, and put on over 6, and you have that element that, hey, what if it goes beyond 6? What if it broke? But I would have loved to see it going beyond 6. But at 6 hours, it was working in a very cooling mode without any experience of any hotness here even there, and I switched off.
Then maybe what I inquired about was the mess and alternate those cables, which is special on the transformer. How would you tell that this is positive and a negative on the transformer? Most especially on primary.
The transformer doesn't have polarities. It is like a resistor. The resistor doesn't have polarities. Okay? But now, in this setup here, this of course, this is the setup. Even this one here, there are no polarities at all. But what you have is that you have this point, that point, and in this case, by soldering this, what you have here is just, of course, the alternative. You have the product. So in this case, the transformer, you can't conserve any what? Because it doesn't have the products.
Okay.
Even a resistor, even a rheostat, like that one, there is red and black. It was just put there, but doesn't show what? Doesn't have the product. So what is happening right here is the capacitor and the derivative. Because this is a positive, this is a negative. Positive, negative. Now, of course, if you reverse this right here, this one will not charge. Okay? Yeah. That's the difference. But again, on the market, you can even have this one, the whole of this one, as one chip. And one chip. It is like having a rectifier. We have a bridge rectifier. You go to the market, you may find a bridge rectifier, which is 1 watt. Now another way maybe we use this board here. Now actually this is a transformer. Now this is, let's say, 240 watts, and this is, let's say, 10 watts, 10 volts.